Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. It is the Thursday edition of the show, the live show. I know people wait all week for this to see what we're going to talk about. So today we got about 4 or 5 stories that might be of interest to you. We're going to try to get these done in 2 hours. Story one, of course, is the thing that has been burning up the internet as far as the wrestling media for the last couple of minutes. It's that Warner Brothers interest in WWE. Second, we're going to be discussing the. We're probably going to talk a little bit about the Department of Justice and their charges against Ted Jr. We've talked about that on the channel before, but maybe we'll get more into it. We're going to listen to FTR Bald explain why his podcast is dead. Now that the audio is out, I want to play the audio because I want to hear it. I haven't actually heard it myself yet, so we're gonna talk about that. Charly Caruso, aka Charly Arnolt, has left ESPN and has moved over to OUTKICK, which is owned by Fox. And this has caused quite a few wrestling fans to be upset with her. So we're going to talk about that too. And there's something else that I had planned to talk about, but we'll see if we actually get there. So anyway, how y'all doing? What's been up? WG Phil wants to know if I'm going to talk about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers anniversary show. I've tried watching it. I got all the way through it. To be quite honest, it was basically just a way of coming up with a new Yellow Ranger. That was pretty much what it was. I mean, it was, as me as somebody who's kind of a lightweight Power Rangers fan, we could talk about it. We'll probably talk about it Sunday. But I tried watching it all the way through. I kind of was like, I lost interest like halfway through, but it was fun, nostalgic fun for about 20 minutes or so, and then I was kind of like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why this happening? And since I'm so out of the loop on Power Rangers, it's it was literally interesting. But we'll talk about it on Sunday. What's up, AJ3? Okay, so we're gonna try to queue up the audio for the Warner Brothers WWE talk. Instead of reading an article, we're actually going to do the most. We're going to do the most on this channel, like I like to do, if at all possible. We're going to go to the source. So we're going to actually go to the podcast in question, and I'm going to play the audio. So we're going to play the audio. So when we get to it, when it's time, we're going to listen to the whole piece of the discussion about WWE and Warner Brothers, because quite a few people, they read the headline and then they responded. Then some people were smart enough to read the article and they responded. And then I decided that the article really didn't go far enough and it wasn't as definitive enough. And so we're going to discuss this because there was more to it. Like, this whole conversation is actually very intriguing. We're not going to talk about the whole thing, though. The whole damn thing is an hour. But the WWE portion is about, I would say about 5 or 6 minutes, maybe. And it's, and so we're going to talk about that. And it actually ties a little bit into the Charly Caruso thing. So maybe we'll dovetail those two things quite well. Let's see. Hunter Iggy. Do you think Warner Brothers are dishing out for AEW for WWE? We're going to talk about that in one moment. WG Phil, Johnny Bosch said it was a test pilot to see if there's interest for a show. I don't know. They would have to update it. It felt very nostalgic. They didn't really add anything new to the Power Rangers in terms of how it looked. It was just pure 90s nostalgia. So from that perspective, I got that out of it. It was pure 90s nostalgia. I got that out of it, but that was about it. What up, Stephen Smith? Steven Smith has a statement. I'm curious if they're interested or are willing to sacrifice all they've done for AEW just to go WWE programming. This reminds me of what TNN did this to ECW. It's interesting. I know Tony Khan has to be shitting in his boots right now, but it's an interesting thing. For starters, before we get into it, I want to talk about the guy in question. James Andrew Miller is a legitimate media journalist. All right. For a lot of people, they didn't know he existed. I didn't know he existed. I looked him up first because sometimes you do want to know what's the qualifications of the person talking. This is another thing that you should probably do when somebody comes out of nowhere and makes a crazy statement. For starters, you want to put it in context. Make sure what was said is in the appropriate context. Second, you want to make sure that the speaker actually could have, it doesn't mean that he does, that he could have the information that he claims to have. Okay? Now, James Andrew Miller is a legitimate journalist, very well known in the industry. He's famous. He's wrote books on ESPN. He's wrote books on HBO. He has done long form interviews on pretty much all of these subjects. He follows media. That's what he does. This is his beat. All right. So he's not just some guy talking out of his ass. All right. So that's the first thing. Second, because this is a complex issue, we're going to play the audio, like I said. So we're going to make sure that we don't say things that he didn't say or take some things that he said out of context. We want to make sure that we get everything in the appropriate context. Okay, so as soon as I get it all queued up, we're going to get started. So how was everybody's night so far? Everybody okay? So it should be about 32 minutes into the podcast, which is, I got it all queued up now. So let's get into our first story, Warner Brothers Discovery and WWE. We're going to listen to the whole thing. We're not just going to poke out the part about Warner Brothers Discovery. We're going to talk about the whole thing because it has to be put in context. All right.
About WWE TV rights deals coming up. I want you to talk to me a little bit about that. I've heard Nick Khan say, SmackDown airs on Fox, Monday Night Raw airs on USA, which is part of NBC. I've heard him say those two networks will have right of first refusal. I'm not sure I believe that. Are there other companies, though, who would want to get in business with the WWE besides NBC and Fox? Do we know of?
I think so. And I wouldn't be surprised, despite the fact that money is such an issue for them, I wouldn't be surprised if Warner Brothers Discovery wouldn't like a slice of that WWE pie.
Now,
remember, Monday night does not have to be on Monday night. Monday night's a tough night because if you go through the calendar all year round, there's sports on Monday night. And you could, if you're Warner Brothers Discovery, you could say, we're going to move it to a different night. We got Thursday night with the NBA or whatever, but we're going to figure out a different night for it. And all of a sudden it becomes, very attractive.
Now, I don't know how closely you follow the wrestling world, but Turner has a deal
WrestleMania.
Oh, you were? It's so fly. The first night?
Yeah, my first time WrestleMania.
Were you there the first night or the second night? Were you there Saturday?
I was there the second night.
When they screwed over Cody Rhodes and... Were you there when Roman Reigns pinned Cody Rhodes? Was the place, or did you leave by then?
No, I was there, but it's like
what was the vibe? What was the vibe inside that building though? Because people were ready to riot. It seemed like.
I understand, but listen, right at the start, there were more than 80,000 people there. I've never seen it. I mean, it's incredible. It's like the Woodstock of body oil or whatever. But it was really intense. I've never been.
I'm going through all these conspiracy theories in my head right now because when Nick Khan joined WWE, he was the guy who made them move their pay-per-views from Sunday night to Saturday night. And now you're telling me, you mentioned Monday Night Raw possibly getting off Mondays. That seems like a total Nick Khan deal, which would be fascinating if that ever happened. And they should get off Mondays because, like you said, there's NFL on Mondays, college football plays their title game on Monday, the NCAA plays on Mondays.
I mean, I have not heard Nick advocate that, but I think my point is that if a buyer comes in and doesn't want Monday night, that Monday night package is air mobile. I mean, there's no reason why it has to be Monday night.
Right. Now here's the thing about Warner Brothers, though. So they're in bed with the WWE competition, AEW. AEW Wrestling has shows on Turner on Wednesday nights and Friday nights. So when you say Warner Brothers could be involved, do you know, I'm sure you're speculating, but would it be in addition to or instead of, or you don't know that?
I don't know, but I know that there are people at Warner Brothers who are interested
in the WWE.
Yeah.
Wow. That is.
All right, so that's the entire WWE clip. Then he started talking about Succession. So he says, I'm sure you're speculating, but he says, I know there are people in Warner Brothers who want to do business with WWE. It is not just speculation. He knows people. Now, does that mean he knows one person? Could be. Does he know more than one? We don't even know the person that he knows. All right? We're all speculating. What he's saying is that he knows that there are people within Warner who are interested in WWE. Now, this, of course, he started this. If you was listening, he listened to the whole thing. He talked about money up front. That money is going to be an issue. The second thing he mentioned, moving Raw off of Mondays. I can tell you right there, those two things are probably going to be a non-starter. All right. Even though it's not up to Vince, it kind of still is up to Vince about whether Raw gets moved off Mondays or not. I'm telling you, that would be absolutely absurd. That would piss me off. Okay. It also wouldn't be worth it because Warner Brothers likely wouldn't even be able to afford it. Now, before we got to this point, they were talking about the NBA. And essentially, the discussion was that if Warner Brothers lost the NBA, they would more than likely start going after WWE because they will want something that's in sort of the same vein. And they mentioned that Warner Brothers might lose the NBA because NBC wants the NBA. Now, what we're talking about here is NBC, who owns USA Network, spending money to get the NBA on NBC, which is what a lot of fans want. And this is what, a lot of people are speculating. In doing so, that would free up a lot of money at Warner Brothers because they wouldn't be paying the NBA all that money. They would then have a big pot of cash in which to give it to WWE. Now, at that point, we're talking about specifically the Monday night product, so Raw, right? Now, we could speculate and talk about what this would do to AEW because WWE ain't coming if they're not exclusive. You can forget it. So that's pretty much going to boot AEW off the network. Then we were talking about almost a complete and total programming trade because more than likely what would end up happening is maybe AEW would try to slide into USA and take Raw's old time slot, which would probably be hilarious because then you'll probably be swapping Dynamite and Raw. This was a bombshell, and it's crazy that people will even mention that. The idea that we could move Monday Night Raw I don't like that one. That's one that don't make me feel good. I don't like that. But he did say that he knew somebody from Warner Brothers that was interested in WWE programming, which means they might make an offer. All right, but it's all going to depend on what's going on with the NBA. So until we know for sure what's going on with the NBA, there's no real reason to even discuss Warner Brothers and WWE. Warner Brothers doesn't have the money. Okay, they simply don't have the money. And Nick Khan has already said that incumbent buyers get right of first refusal. Okay, which means that both USA and Fox are going to get to make the first bid, right? So if they make bids that WWE are not happy with or whatever, then they're going to go with looking at other buyers, which could then make create an opportunity, I guess you could say, for Warner Brothers. Now, some people have been asking the question of TBS or TNT and why would you leave USA? And people believe that USA is a higher rated cable network than TBS or TNT. This is incorrect. All right. TBS is ranked number 7 as of December 2022. This was from IndieWire. TBS is ranked number 7 in cable. USA is 14. So that means twice as many people watch TBS than watch USA, which is the reason why I bang on AEW's ratings so hard. They have a higher rated network. More people watch TBS than USA. But there's a tradition when it comes to WWE and USA and Monday nights. Even when Raw was on Spike, it was still on Mondays. The idea that they could move it from Mondays or even want to move it from Mondays that could be a deal breaker in itself right there. You know, it's literally called Monday Night Raw. What would wrestling be without wrestling on a Monday night? It'll of course open the door for AEW to survive and slide in, but it's pretty nutty. For comparison's sake, I know a lot of people like to, trash MLW and trash Impact. Reels as of December 2022 was number 43. Access number 100. So when you see really low ratings for MLW and Impact, that's why. Okay, nobody watches these networks. So and a lot of people don't even have these networks because a lot of these ratings, as far as the network strength and all that kind of stuff, comes on. Well, USA and TBS pretty much come together, but not everybody has Reels. Not everybody has Access TV. But yeah, he said that he knows people. He's an insider. So he could have this information. He more than likely does have this information. And this is something Tony Khan should be concerned about. Tony Khan should start making some phone calls. Tony Khan should try to get this contract locked up as quickly as possible. Tony Khan should get it together because this guy is no joke. All right, this guy is not somebody that is making up shit as he goes along. All right, this dude really got inside information. I mean, again, he wrote some serious books. He even wrote books on the company Nick Khan used to work for, CAA, the talent agency. He actually wrote books on that agency. Like, this dude is serious business. You know, he studies media. This is what he does. So I really want people to take what he said and pay attention to it. Not to, shit all over the AEW fans and all that kind of stuff. That's not really what I want to go to. I just want to say this is business. This is more than wrestling. This is a network trying to survive. Warner Brothers spent a ton of money in that merger, right? 9 times out of 10, they probably can't even afford Dynamite at this point, depending on how much money Tony Khan wants. So just the money necessary to secure Monday Night Raw may be too much. You know, it might be too much. But we're looking at WWE is always going to come second to all of the major sports. You know, the NCAA, the NFL, all that stuff. It's always going to come second to that stuff. So where all of that stuff goes is going to decide where WWE finds themselves. So, but their TV deal is up, I think, within the next couple of months. No doubt they're working on that already, especially when it comes to Monday Night Raw. They don't like to have breaks in service. There's not going to be a break in service. So we're talking about something that's legit here. So what could that mean? Like I said before, I think that if they were to move over to Warner Brothers, AEW's off the network. I mean, they're losing all of their shows. At that point, they probably would just immediately go over to NBC and try to do business over there, because then at the very least, they can say we have 800,000 viewers or 900,000 viewers or whatever. This is what we bring to the table. It's not quite WWE, but it's programming that can replace WWE, and it's something that your audience is already familiar with, because a lot of the guys that's going to be on AEW are people that WWE fans are already familiar with. Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, Samoa Joe, Adam Cole. These are people who have already been on USA. So it would be fairly easy for Tony Khan, if we're being honest, to be able to, probably get his ass kicked off of Warner Brothers, but to slide over to USA and say, look, there's a lot of overlap between the WWE and AEW audiences. A lot of the wrestlers that we have under contract, WWE had under contract. These are guys that audience already knows. There's going to be some people who are they know where USA is on the dial and everything. So it's not like it's going to be, we have to create a new network, which is what, Impact, that was their problem. They was going to like Destination America and trying to build that network, and nobody knew where it was, and not everybody had it. And it was the same situation we got with Access and Reels, and it was like, nobody knows where the hell Destination America. I had Destination America and didn't know it. Had no idea until Impact actually went to Destination America. Did I even know we even had Destination America? It's just one of the many networks that are on there. But USA is already established among wrestling fans. So the idea that you wouldn't have to reestablish a network, you've already got wrestlers that fan base already knows. It's a product that the network already knows how to work with, because they've been working with wrestling for 40 years. It's not WWE, so it's going to be a little bit different, but ultimately it's the same genre. So they probably will bounce back pretty decently, and then USA might come out a little bit better because they won't have to spend as much money on AEW, and USA might actually spend a little bit more than Warner Brothers would, but it would put AEW in a real sense of desperation, because they would want to find somewhere to go really quickly. And trying to find somewhere to go really quickly, they wouldn't be able to go over to USA with hey, we demand $300 million or something like that. That'd be crazy. They will not have to be PG, because USA Network has had shows like Chucky that people were dropping the F-bomb and all that kind of stuff. It's not necessarily. WWE has internal stuff that makes them PG. It's not necessarily because of USA. In fact, USA Network used to have, they used to televise Chucky and stuff like that where people were cussing, and other shows that have had sex and blood, and that's why I think that AEW would fit on USA nicely, if we're being honest, if they were to get kicked off the network. But I don't think all of this is going to happen this way anyway. I definitely do think NBC is probably going to end up snatching the NBA, and that's going to be tough for Warner Brothers. But NBC is big enough so they can have NBA and WWE. I mean, who knows? AJ3 says, so if WWE Monday Night Raw goes to Warner Brothers, does that mean Fox keeps SmackDown? Well, it could. Or it could be that WWE just moves SmackDown to USA. Now, I don't think they would want to do that because they like broadcast. Broadcast is a larger audience. You have more access to a more diverse audience. So I don't think they would want to go cable unless they absolutely have to. In fact, if I were WWE, I would be trying to get Raw on broadcast TV. Now, that would be a pain in the ass because you're talking about going against Monday Night Football directly. I'm talking broadcast versus broadcast at that point. And that's going to be a kick in the teeth. So probably not. They probably want to keep Raw on cable. And besides, that's what Nick Khan said. He said they like having a cable deal, a broadcast deal, and a streaming deal. And those things being separate. Because you have, all your bases covered. They don't want to have everything on cable or everything on broadcast. Of course, cable is continuing to die. Earlier in that conversation, James Andrew Miller and I think the guy's name is Jimmy Traina. They were talking about ESPN. And they were talking about how there's a lot of cuts coming to ESPN. Now, this, of course, leads into Charly leaving ESPN and joining OUTKICK. But so we can pretty much put two and two together. She was probably about to get cut anyway, so she just left. But there are about to be a bunch of layoffs at ESPN. Now, I don't know how many of you were paying attention, but there was also some conversations about WWE and ESPN doing some stuff. And this is what happens when I do live shows. I come up with something in my head and then I try to immediately look it up, and then I can't because the internet connection is not very good. But I wanted to do a little bit of looking into this ESPN WWE stuff. Now, it's not a conversation about whether it's going to be in-ring stuff or if it's going to be more documentaries or maybe ESPN showing more WWE content. We don't know what that is yet, but it was merely a couple of days ago where people was talking about ESPN and WWE doing business. Is it entirely possible that they could create a show for ESPN? It's possible. Here it is. It's on Wrestling Inc. WWE reportedly in renewed talks with ESPN following Endeavor deal. It says this is from April 17th, so 3 days ago. The question of WWE's TV rights following merger of WWE UFC has been a subject of speculation, and it seems the first move of the post-merger WWE is in motion. According to PW Insider Elite, WWE is in talks with ESPN to collaborate on new projects moving forward. The biggest caveat being that, for the time being, these talks do not involve a weekly TV series. A collaboration between WWE and ESPN wouldn't be the first, and they talk about, the ESPN showing WWE content during the pandemic. I think they also collaborated with the Ric Flair documentary, the 30 for 30 on Ric Flair. So there's some stuff there. It says another interesting piece of information from the report is the news that another promotion is in talks with ESPN, despite AEW's recent deal with ESPN to air their programming in Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands. It is confirmed that AEW is not the promotion in question. Which promotion was in talks with ESPN is unknown, but it can be assumed that WWE is stepping back in that those talks are in jeopardy. So somebody was talking with ESPN, perhaps about a wrestling product or something to that effect. Look, nobody has any control over that. That's Disney. Disney gonna do what they want to do. So ultimately, my point is that ESPN is losing money. They're about to start having layoffs. Sports media is not doing that well. Another thing they was talking about in this interview with James Andrew Miller and Jimmy Traina is how Thursday Night Football isn't doing very well. The players don't like it, and a lot of the fans don't really like it. But it's a moneymaker. It's, the NFL spreading out into more games, spreading out into more days of the week. And despite the fact that a lot of people don't like Thursday Night Football, it continues to make money for them because people like watching the NFL. So there it is. There's a lot to discuss here. And this is just basically the big sports are going to dictate what everything else is doing. So NBC and Fox and the NFL and the NBA, they're going to figure out what they're going to do. And then WWE is going to slide in there somewhere, hopefully to secure a really big contract and call it a day. So that's about it. That's all we know right now. But the thing I wanted to really get people to understand is that this dude is legitimate. And even though he is speculating, he's also reporting. There's parts of that is speculation. Like, moving Raw from Monday. That's speculation. But it is a fact. And he said it. He knows people who are interested in WWE programming, and they are at Warner Brothers. And are you surprised? Are you surprised? They have a wrestling product. Okay? And they feel maybe that even though the wrestling product is somewhat successful, if they could get a more successful wrestling product, that would be even better. So and I think Vince would probably be okay with TBS. His first foray into TBS didn't work very well because, he didn't want to play by the rules and the audience didn't really like it. And Ted Turner was a bit of a douche. Also because Vince wasn't playing by the rules. So there was a lot of stuff going on, but there's some interesting stuff going on here. Yeah, ESPN has been losing money for a long time, and they was just talking about there being huge layoffs coming at ESPN, and that's probably why Charly jumped ship and went over to Fox, because everybody's like, look, they're losing a ton of money at ESPN. Stephen Smith, Tony has a lot going on, thefts like CM Punk drama, chaos. He might lose his TV contract. He has a lot on his plate. Yeah, he needs to clean it up. He needs to really, really clean it up. He needs to pay attention. Hopefully he's paying attention. Despite the fact that I rip on AEW all the time, I don't want him to die. I want it to run smoother. I want the show to be better. I don't want it dead. I don't hate AEW fans that much that I want the product to die, and I want all the boys and girls who work there to have to look for new jobs. I think a lot of those people should be fired, but I don't think everybody should be fired, for Christ's sake. Just like there's probably about 50 to 60 people in AEW who shouldn't have a job. A lot of them are friends of the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and all those guys. But that didn't even include the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. I wouldn't even fire them. At least they're a draw, And what I mean by that is they have a fan base. But there's a lot of people who, Tony Khan signed when he initially launched AEW that are absolutely useless to the product. And I talk about those people every week. Every time I see them, I talk about them. And if you start counting these people out and you have like a list of people on your talent roster, you'd be like, you can get rid of him and her and him and him and her and him and him and him and her. And you could probably just, if nothing, shave out a lot of pointless costs and pay people who are actually good, pay them a little bit more. So there's nothing wrong there. Stephen Smith says, I can tell you for a fact that USA Network is not higher than TBS or TNT. USA Network have never really had that many good shows outside of Monday Night Raw. Well, that is partially true. And now USA Network is like 99% Law and Order SVU reruns. The TLD, I haven't worked a Monday night in 23 years because of Monday Night Raw. Man, I try to avoid whatever nights is going to make me miss wrestling. That's how much of a fan I am. I really, really, really try to avoid that kind of stuff. Stone Mexican guy. I hope they buy WWE and dump AEW. It would be interesting. It would be chaotic. And I think a lot of AEW fans would absolutely pitch a bitch. But it wouldn't make me much of a difference. As long as Raw stays on Mondays, I wouldn't care if it was on TBS or TNT. It really wouldn't make me much difference. Vince has left USA Network before, and that was a weird time when it was on Spike. I wasn't a big fan. Wasn't a big fan of WWE on Spike. That's probably why one of the reasons why I stopped watching. All right, so let's talk about our boy FTR Bald and his podcast coming to an end. We're gonna try to move at a nice little clip here, and he put out the audio of why his podcast ends, and we're going to listen to that. It's 13 minutes. Hopefully, we don't have to listen to the whole 13 minutes, and we can just get the gist of it. Yes, I was talking about Black Saturday, where Vince showed up on TBS. That was a whole thing. There was a lot to that. Jim Cornette make it sound like Ted Turner cared so much about what the viewers think. No, that wasn't the only thing that was the problem. People would have gotten used to it eventually. That's the thing that people don't really understand. As a sidebar, is that when WWE eventually invaded all of these territories, there was initial rejection of that product because it's different. It's not what you grew up with. There's going to be rejection of that product. But eventually, over time, they did become, big in pretty much most of these territories, Now they didn't become as big as those territories were because people always like their hometown stuff a little bit more. But the complaining kind of stopped, WWE wasn't even on TBS that long. It's like, oh, people want that Gordon Soley wrestling. It's like, yeah, that's true. But if they'd have gave it like 3 or 4 years, yeah, that would have been forget. People would have forgot about Gordon Soley wrestling eventually because they always do. People get over shit, So let's talk about this FTR Ball thing. Oh shit, I had to turn it
on. I guess so. So when we started this podcast, we just wanted to do good for wrestling. I was looking forward to, and I still do, and I still did, looking forward to bringing my thoughts on psychology, in-ring action, what I thought was good wrestling, my love for Bret Hart, and break down some of the things that we had done in our career and some of our biggest moments. Never in a million years. I knew that we would probably ruffle a few feathers, and I think
we were playing on some feather ruffling. But
I know that I can, but I wanted to read a text really quick from Dan from Cash, and I asked him. I said, "Do you mind if I read this on the show?" And he said, "Absolutely not." Sorry, I have to look it up, but.
Oh my God!
Look it up. Go ahead and if you get on Twitter, look up Cash's recent tweets.
Oh my God! Get to the point. Get to the point. FTR Bald.
Everything. He's really got away with words.
Yeah. So he sent me a text after the tweets from Saturday. Saturday morning, he was checking on me to make sure everything was okay. And he said, I told him what was going on. He said, "That sucks, man. I'm sorry, brother." He said, "But I want you to know, history is going to remember all this very differently when it's all said and done. By the time we're retired and set, the truth will come out, and you'll be one of the ones people respect for actually being transparent and honest." And add to that, I said, "You have more integrity than pretty much anyone else in wrestling, and are one of the few not afraid to speak the truth without hiding behind a source." And that to me meant more to me than almost anything else we've ever had in our, 10-year friendship. Because that's it, man. I to a fault, have stood up for what I believe in, and to a fault, I speak my truth.
I'm always suspicious of anybody who uses the term "my truth." When somebody says they're speaking my truth, that's bullshit. You're a con man. Okay, there is only the truth. If you're talking about something subjective, you say my perspective, or in my opinion, my truth. Where do you get your own truth from? How do you have your own truth? There are no subjective truths. Are no subjective facts. There's only reality. Okay, so I wish he would stop all this emotion and get to the fucking point.
Truth. Never, like I said before, have I pointed out or singled out one person and talked shit about them except for Road Dogg. I did, but I felt like I owed him that. And I could be wrong. I probably didn't. I probably should have just not said a word, but that's just not how I operate. I had an opportunity to spill my heart of how he made me feel and how he made me feel so minuscule and so small. I had to let people know. Other than that, I could never have talked bad about anyone that I worked with.
Poor Cassio.
Oh yeah, well speaking of that, now we can tell it was all at work.
Yeah, Cassio, we love you, man.
Yeah,
you know
that. I was never mad at you.
Dax wasn't really that mad at you.
Who is that? I don't care.
Oh god.
Of course you're getting emotional. You probably talk about feeding your daughter.
To apologize to my fans. I want to apologize to the people who already didn't like me. And fans of for example, the Young Bucks, and fans of Kenny Omega, fans of MJF, or anybody else who I may have upset. I want to apologize to them because I never wanted you to hate me so much, that you would say some of the things you said to me. And going into this podcast, I never thought that would happen. And I hate that it happened. And again, like I told you earlier in the show, I thought I was way more mentally tough than I am. But
Jesus Christ. Jesus, what the? Y'all listen to this motherfucker. This is probably the most Dax Harwood I've ever listened to. This is infuriating. All right? This dude is pissing me off. He's apologizing to the fans of the Young Bucks. It's one thing to apologize to the Young Bucks. It's another thing to apologize to their fans. Why? I'm sorry I made you hate me. Mentally, I'm weak. I'm melting. I'm melting. You said mean things to me online. Shave your fucking mustache. You're not fit to have it. Shave your mustache. You should look like Christopher Daniels the next time I see you, just naked all over. No, I don't want no body hair at all. You're not. What is this? What is this? Oh, this dude is terrible, man. I was not expecting to get this mad. I just can't believe it. That's why I'm so glad I didn't listen to this beforehand, because I wouldn't be able to even structure the frustration that I'm feeling right now. This is awful, bro. This dude is a grown man. He's talking about how he's not as mentally strong as he thought he was. What is FTR here thinking about this? You think he listened to this and said, that's my boy, that he got my back? I'd be like, God damn, I'm stuck with this dude. I'm stuck with this guy. I'm forever gonna be known as FTR Hair. never gonna have a name of my own. What the fuck? Oh, this dude is awful, man. Oh my good God. How much more of this do I have to listen to, bro? I know he wasn't done, so I'm gonna have to start it back up in a minute. But this dude's soft as shit. And look, I don't like really messing with, emotional guys. And they get kind of artsy and everything. It's not a it's it's not his fault. I think it's his genetics. I, this guy, he's really frustrating. Jesus Christ.
Was way more mentally tough than I am, but I admit that I'm not. And I don't think that I can handle some of the things that are said. I also don't know if I want my daughter 10 years from now to read some of the things that are said about me.
Right.
But ultimately, we all wanted to do good for wrestling, right? And you and I. And I don't think that this podcast, as much as we tried, dude, as hard as we tried, I don't think the podcast was reflecting that for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't think maybe it was good for wrestling, and it sucks. But
you can tell that dude got an attitude. You can tell he mad. Oh yeah, Matt Coon. Oh, he mad. Oh, he mad. See, I'm gonna tell you this. This guy, this Matt Coon fella, he was arguing with people online. The Wrestling Observer newsletter crowd. He was really pissing them. He's really pissing these people off because he started like going after people, especially when they dropped that article about CM Punk gaslighting AEW fans. He started going after people, and that's why I'm not surprised that the podcast got pulled. Because it's one thing for Dax to be doing it, it's another thing when Matt Coon started doing it, and you could tell he's salty that FTR Bald is pulling the plug on this thing. This is so weird though. I don't want my daughter to read in 10 years all these things people said about me. What? 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 I would think that your daughter, how old is this baby like now? She's like 5 or 6 or something like that. I would imagine when she's 15, 16 years old, she is not going to give a fuck about any of these marks and what they thought about you when she was a little girl. I don't think she's going to care. She's going to care about, hopefully, boys, school, making whatever team she's going to play out for, or, being in a play or something like that, being in a dance recital, her social circle. She's going to care about that kind of shit. She is not going to care about her daddy's reputation unless he was a drug addict or a rapist or something like that. She ain't going to give a shit. Okay? So that was a cop-out. That was another one of those, I got to feed my daughter. Fuck out of here, weirdo. Shave your mustache. How you online and you can't handle heat? How are you a wrestler and you can't handle heat? How are you a wrestler and you can't handle heat? How are you a wrestler and you can't handle heat? Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Let me look up, how old is this fool? Now I'm very interested. I want to know how old he is. So let's Google how old this guy is real quick. How old are you, Dax Harwood? You are 38? Oh no. Oh no. Oh my God. Oh my God. This nigga is 40, bro. This nigga 40. Oh no. I bet Arn Anderson, as soon as he comes in the locker room, Arn Anderson probably look at him like, what are you? You 38? You 38?
But I do want to clear up a couple of things. AEW did not ask Dax or pressure me or anybody to stop the podcast.
We haven't even announced it yet. That was the first time we said it. So there you go.
This is it, guys. This is the last episode. And,
there we go.
And before we, finalize everything real quick and talk about it just a second, AEW did not pressure anybody. Tony Khan did not pressure anybody. Dax and I haven't had a falling out.
Oh, God.
This was right. Any of those other things, we're not so upset by the trolls that we're leaving. We're not so upset at Alvarez and Meltzer, whoever that we're leaving. We really just don't feel good about the fact that what we're doing is hurting wrestling or hurting AEW, this company that's trying to make the wrestling world a better place, like it or not. A lot of our fans, a lot of our listeners, our old school listeners that don't like AEW, but I'm telling you, I've been a supporter from the start because I think it's something that can help professional wrestling. And we love wrestling. We love the fans. We love the wrestlers in it. And we flew kind of close to the sun, and we really thought, hey, we can just talk about modern stuff. And apparently that we made life difficult for some people, and we didn't want to do that at all.
Yep. And
oh, well, so we were hurting AEW. We were hurting AEW, so we decided to stop the podcast, but they didn't ask us to. We were hurting the program, even though they kind of weren't. All Dax did was give his opinion on things. Other people can give their opinion on things. Like other people can go out there and quote unquote harm the product all they want. All he was doing was he was spent most of it, like people would take like these morsels, like these 2-3 minute pieces of his podcast like 2 hours. They would take these 1 or 2 minute sections and build narratives around these sections or argue about these sections. And instead of maybe just altering the podcast where you say, we're not going to talk about modern things anymore, we're only going to talk about the past, it became, well, we're hurting wrestling. And then he stopped there and said, we're hurting AEW. So it's okay if we talk shit about WWE. We can't talk shit about people in AEW, though. We can talk shit about Road Dogg, Shawn Michaels. We can talk shit about Triple H. We can talk shit about all those guys. But heavens to Betsy, I tell the truth about MJF or the Young Bucks. Can't do that. Now, truthfully, you should have thought about, if you had any wisdom, this is the thing between intelligence and wisdom, right? Smart and wisdom. Being smart and being wise. Being wise, you will learn from somebody else's mistakes. You're smart, you learn from your own, right? So, a truly wise person would have said, this podcast, and I'm pretty sure I said it because I do have bits of wisdom. This podcast is not going to go well because he's going to talk about modern stuff. And the moment he talks about anything modern in a way that people don't like, they're going to have a problem. He was criticizing Tony Khan's booking of the Pinnacle, right? Even if you say, well, he was talking about MJF, he was talking about Tony Khan booking because Tony Khan's in control of it. Tony Khan decides who does the most talking in these promo segments. And if they want Tully and MJF wants MJF and then MJF wins, then apparently Tony Khan listened to MJF, didn't listen to you. But that was a problem. What did Kevin Nash or Scott Hall always say? You can make friends or you can make money. I got enough friends. I would like to have the money. Dax Harwood he's trying to be everybody's friend. So now what's about to happen, do you think? He's about to still get bombarded with CM Punk sucks, Dax Harwood sucks, FTR sucks, and now he's not going to have any outlet in which to respond because he shut down his own outlet. Do you think these articles about these anti-CM Punk articles are going to stop? Do you think that people are going to forget the stuff that you said? You've already said it. It's already out there. The only thing you can do now is say, look, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just giving my perspective on things. They're welcome to counter and give their perspective. But this is my perspective. This is my podcast. This is my perspective. You know? But he could have tweaked the content and continued the podcast. He could have said, we're going to go back and we're going to review old NXT shows that I'm on or whatever, and could have did that show for the rest of his damn life. He chose to shut down the show, which tells me that the show existing was the problem. All right? Not the content, even though the content was a bit of an issue. The fact that he even had an outlet in which to respond if he wanted to was a problem to some of these people. So he got on his knees, he apologized, he admitted his own weakness, his own vulnerabilities, and now he's going to shut down the podcast because he feels like it was hurting AEW. Because he cares more about AEW than feeding his daughter. Which you would think you would care about your daughter, because this is another revenue stream for daddy, right? This was a top 5 podcast that they shut down here. Oh, did you guys know that? This was a regular top 5 podcast that they just shut down. This podcast could have drawn money. Could have made him more financially secure. So he won't have to go out here and cut all these fake tough guy promos about how he feed his daughter. This could have set you up to retire younger so that you can spend more time with your daughter. This is a guy who is not smart, not wise, not intelligent. I'm not saying lean into the controversy every single week. I'm saying you got a podcast that people want to listen to. You can get some advertising on that joint. You got another revenue stream. Okay, you're 38 years old. You're not. He said 4 years, they're done. 4 years, they're done. He could do this podcast along with working his 4-year contract and be straight. The only thing I could think of that would make somebody cut out a revenue stream, a top 5 podcast, is if they were paid to do so. Is it likely that he was given some money and told essentially, look, we need you to shut this down. I need you to go ahead and, as a condition of your new contract, we're going to lay that podcast to rest. WWE does it all the time. If a wrestler is doing something and they don't like, legally they can't force them to stop doing it, they'll just pay them to stop doing it. Vince do that shit all the time. That was the thing with Twitch and all that kind of stuff. They would say, oh, well, we'll just give you extra money. Here's some extra cash. Zelina Vega got paid more money after she got fired, right? She came back to a bigger paycheck because WWE had to cut into something that she couldn't do anymore. So it happens. It's the best way to get people to stop doing things that they don't want to do. I'm scared to continue this. I think we've heard enough, if we're being honest. I'm looking at this thing. There's another 7 minutes of this. And I'm worried I'm going to have to hunt Dax Harwood down and shave his mustache for him. Because he don't deserve to have it. He really don't. This dude is a mess. He needs a therapist, some warm tea, a nice hot bath, and just go to bed. Every night, just drink you some tea near the fireplace, play some Sade, have your wife oil you up a little bit, and she just tucks you right into bed because you're a gigantic fucking child, apparently. You're a wrestler. You can't handle the heat. People are saying mean things about me, so let me kill my podcast. That's crazy. That's just crazy talk. That's crazy talk. All of your heroes were getting stabbed, spit on, shot. You're scared of people tweeting at you. Soft. SAWFT. Fear the revival. Fear the revolt. Oh my God. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, we're not listening to any more of that. I'm done. Oh yeah. I just found out about this. As a matter of fact, I looked at this. This is going to be a bonus. How many of you ever listened to Bubba the Love Sponge talk about Hulk Hogan fucking his wife? He did a. I don't know how many people have. This blew my mind. Okay, so because it blew my mind, we're going to do this. All right, so this is going to be a bonus, a little surprise thing, because I was listening to this and it was in my history. So, and because I forgot about it, I wasn't thinking about it because this is kind of old. So I figured people might have listened to it already. But he's going to try to explain the Hulk Hogan situation. And this came out of nowhere. So this is not like this is definitely you have to listen to the show to get this.
Hogan sex tape really fucked up my life. It really did. And a lot of people don't know the truth to that. If you were to go ask, let's say that you two guys are walking down the International Mall or anywhere for that fucking matter. Does anybody go to to Pinellas Park? What's the Seminole? Tyrone. Does anybody go to Tyrone Mall anymore? Not really. I don't know, but if you're hanging out on the beach or something amongst, men 25 to 54, and you walk up to anybody in Tampa, Florida, or maybe the world for that most part, and you're like, hey, what do you know about the Hogan sex tape? And they're going to say, oh, his best friend, Bubba the Love Sponge, taped Hogan fucking his wife, and then Bubba tried to sell it and do him dirty. There's truth to that. I did let him fuck my wife. And my home surveillance system captivated it, as it captivates everything. That's my only dabbling in the whole thing. The sequence of events that happened thereafter will absolutely blow people's fucking minds when they find out how this all went down. Now, I'm not trying to say, oh, listen, I'm innocent. No, I let my best friend fuck my hot wife. I did. My best friend was in a...
Oh my fucking God, bro. This dude is a cuck. Is apparently trying to... What is up with these people? Where do these people come from, dog? Now, he's going to tell the story about how Hulk Hogan came to be fucking his wife. But my mind is blown that a guy did this. Now, I listened to pretty much every piece of this thing already. Now, this is actually I actually listened to this already. So I'm not going to play all of it. I just want to play the situation of why he let Hulk Hogan fuck his wife. So here we go.
My best friend was in
that's not, I mean, if everyone's willing and there's nothing wrong with that.
There was 3 willing participants, right. And really at the end of the day, had an employee of mine not steal my surveillance. Only 3 people to this day would still know about that event. And my life wouldn't have been ruined. My ex-wife wouldn't be considered a whore, and Hogan wouldn't have $141 million in his pocket. So, I mean, joke's on me, motherfucker. I mean,
he really got all that money?
No, he didn't. He got, in my opinion, between now, don't forget, there were 2 lawsuits. There was,
shut up.
But if you were to go and ask that, people say, well, people don't realize is that my best friend, Hulk Hogan, lived with me at his lowest point of his life in 2007. He was suicidal. I had to take a gun away from him at one time. He was going to kill himself. And we were coming home from the dollhouse one night. My wife and I had a semi-open relation. I mean, we were. I wouldn't say we were necessarily in the lifestyle, but I'm not a jealous guy. I've seen through all of my years on being on radio, and the squirt Olympics and the girls pissing in fucking coffee cans and shooting ping pongs balls out their pussies, and just all the stuff that I've seen, I've become calloused. So my best friend fucking my wife is not that big a deal to me. And so
You guys were
Holy shit. He said, I've become calloused. I've become calloused. I've seen all kinds of crazy shit that other strange women have done. So my wife can do these things. And apparently I have built up some kind of resistance to it. What is wrong with this guy? Well, what is wrong with this guy? Where did Hulk Hogan find me? This is the thing. Hulk Hogan doesn't have fans, though. Hulk Hogan is like, he's like, I don't know, man, but it seems like everybody who's a friend of Hulk Hogan basically puts Hulk Hogan in number one in their own lives. Where, these people are his friends, but they take a bullet for him. Like every single one of them, they jump in front of a speeding car for Hulk Hogan. They're, run in front of a fucking flying meteor for Hulk Hogan. All of these people are like more than friends. It's like a cult. Like some of these guys they're in a cult. The cult of Hulk Hogan. This is nuts. This dude let Hulk Hogan fuck his wife. This is crazy. I'm gonna get to the part of Hulk Hogan fucking his wife, then we're gonna probably stop it.
I mean, and so
you guys were married. You guys were together.
Yeah, we were married, and so we're driving home from the dollhouse, and my wife calls me, and Hogan's down. He's going through the worst fucking divorce ever, and I just told her, I said, hey Heather, have a little sexy outfit on, and take care of my boy when we get home. And it was pretty much that. It was pretty much that simple. The chain of custody of the tape is a story.
Hey, Hulk Hogan's having a tough time. You know what can cure his suicidality? Your pussy. Your golden pussy is gonna pull him back from the brink of suicide. My God, we could use that pussy in the hospital. There's a lot of suicidal people in that hospital. We need to start taking this chick to every mental hospital in the United States. And her heavenly pussy is gonna cure everybody. Because apparently this is one special pussy. This is one hell of a pussy. All right? It's got to be. If she's got this pussy that can pull Hulk Hogan, the immortal Hulkster, from the brink of destruction, brother, she brought me back, brother, then this bitch needs to run for Congress. That pussy needs to run for president. If that pussy can make you feel that good, she should run for president. This dude is retarded. Oh. Sorry. What is this? Okay. All right. Enough of that. Enough of this. So apparently he's going to say that, an employee of his stole the tape and that's how the tape got out. I can't believe this. I can't believe that. Ugh, that's sickening. That's crazy. I'm an adult male. I don't see how we got that far. How did we get this far? All right. We've talked about Ted DiBiase before. Ted Jr. has formally been charged with all the stuff that he supposedly did. He allegedly did. Oh, yeah, that's how Kamala Harris got her job. She was really good with that. She had the magic hole too. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I know it was because Hulk Hogan was going through a tough time with Linda and Nick and all this stuff. But you can't tell me that the idea is to throw him some trim and all of a sudden that's going to make his life better. You can't take him shopping. You couldn't, you know, no retail therapy, you know. The only thing that can make him feel better is getting him some. Look, man, this girl's retarded. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if that became a reasonable reason to let somebody have sex with your wife? Every nigga you know will walk up to you like, man, I'm down bad, bro. Yeah, my dog died and my mama's sick, you know. You're like, man, damn, I wish I could really help you. Like, yeah, man, you gotta let me fuck, Shanika. That'll help me. Like, what? Yeah, if I could just fuck Shanika, I might feel better. I might feel instantly better. But like, but your dog died. Like, you got like negative $32 in your bank account. Like, yeah, man, I'm about to lose my job. Like, that belt looking like I want to tie it around my neck. Like, if only Big Booty Shanika would just bend on over. I'm like, what's right? I'm gonna be sad as hell around everybody who's got a hot wife. I'm gonna be like, oh man, like, sheesh. What the fuck? Oh, like, what? Like, yeah, I got cancer. I got cancer and lupus. Like, what? Like, yeah, I ain't got much longer to live. If only, Beyonce could, that would make me feel better. Like, what? Not ever going to work. That shit ain't never going to work. Hulk Hogan, big ass moping around. Oh, brother, let me tell you something, brother. The Hulkster ain't never been sung so low, brother. If only Heather could let me wrap these 24-inch pythons around her, brother. She could take this 6-inch pipe, brother. You're like, what? This guy's a dork. Where did this guy come from? Talking the Squirt Olympics. What the fuck? His wife must have been like a real, must have been like a super whore. Like, she would have to be. And she did it because he said, yeah, go hook my boy up. And she was like, okay, daddy. And then just, toddled her dumb ass over there and fucked Hulk Hogan. This is crazy. There is no angle to this that makes sense to a regular human male. None of this makes sense to a regular human male. Right. Like, your wife look like Precious. Oh shit, I'm chipper as hell. I'm like Jim Carrey at the Truman Show. How you doing, Bob? With the widest smile in the world. Like I'm on Adderall or something like that. I got a permanent grin. Ugly wife. Soon as somebody with a hot wife come around, though, I start getting all droopy. Oh, I feel so bad. My goldfish died. I left it outside of the bowl too long. I had to clean the bowl. I didn't know what it was to do with it. I started talking. This shit's stupid. That's a stupid fucking guy, man. That guy's. I remember listening to that. I was listening to that shit at work. That was made it even funnier. Cause I was listening to that shit. I was like typing up some kind of report and and he starts talking about Hulk Hogan fucking his wife. And I was like, wait a minute. Hulk Hogan was sad? Like, that's all it took? Was the Hulkster to get sad? So if the Hulkster was in full Hulkster mode, sweaty and let me tell you something, brother, you wouldn't let him fuck your wife? He can only get a pity fuck out of your wife. What kind of friend are you? He can only fuck her when he's feeling down. He can't fuck her when he's feeling up. He ain't either your wife not good enough for the full power of Hulkamania, or none of this makes sense. This is stupid. I can't stand this. All right, let's talk about Ted DiBiase Jr. Now, uh, for a lot of people, you probably saw the Department of Justice. They put out this really long article. I'm not going to read all of this. It's entirely too much. So we're gonna skip to the parts about Ted DiBiase Jr. and the charges because he's been the focus of this whole thing. So it says DiBiase is charged with 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and to commit theft concerning programs receiving federal funds, 6 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of theft concerning programs receiving federal funds, and 4 counts of money laundering. If convicted, he faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison for the conspiracy count, a maximum of 20 years in prison for each wire fraud count, of which there are 6. That's 120 years. You can already know this is ridiculous. So, and a maximum penalty of 10 years for each count of theft. There are 2 counts of theft. That's another 20 years. They're going to run these things concurrently. And it says in prison for each. So that's from the Department of Justice. Now, I went to another article because there wasn't a lot of information in there. And this is from WAPT 16 ABC, which I'm guessing is in Mississippi. And it says the former wrestler is accused of fraudulently obtaining federal funds from the Emergency Food Assistance Program and the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Program. Said DiBiase, along with former Mississippi Department of Human Services Executive John Davis and Christy Webb and Nancy New, and others are accused of misappropriating the money, quote, for their own benefit. Says, we're going to skip the parts about Davis. It says, I guess we got to. It says, Davis is accused of directing Webb and New, who was the president of the New Summit School, to, quote, award sham contracts to various individuals and entities purportedly for the delivery of social services, including at least 5 sham contracts that were awarded to DiBiase's companies, Priceless Ventures LLC and Family Orientum LLC. Wow. He says these were social services that DiBiase did not provide. As a DiBiase, I already read the charges. It says, let's see, let's continue. Prosecutors said DiBiase tested positive Thursday morning for marijuana and Adderall. His attorney said DiBiase used hemp oil and consumed a CBD gummy, which is the reason for the positive marijuana test. The attorney said DiBiase has been diagnosed with ADHD, but his prescription expired 2 years ago, so he has been using his brother's prescription. DiBiase, who was released on bail, said, "Jesus loves you, brother. God bless you, man," as he left the courthouse. So this is insane. This is the same thing that our boy Brett Favre supposedly got wrapped up in, but notice Brett Favre was not charged. No charges for Brett Favre, at least not yet. I've gone on numerous rants about why I don't like federal government. And these things are like number one on the list. So there's going to be some news audio we're going to play in a minute, just in case there might be some more information in there. But taking advantage of needy families, man, that's pretty scumbaggery. You know, you got to be a pretty big scumbag to do something like that. But at least it ain't Ted Sr., which is what everybody thought it was. Everybody thought it was Ted Sr., but it turned out to be Ted Jr. So.
DiBiase Jr. was accustomed to being in the spotlight. He was escorted into the courtroom, shackled, and in handcuffs. You got anything to say, Ted?
No, he doesn't. Hey, Jesus loves you, brother. God bless you, man.
Is that all you got to say, Ted?
That's it, buddy.
You're accused of stealing millions of dollars from poor people in Mississippi. DiBiase released on bond Thursday after he pleaded not guilty to a 13-count indictment. Charges against the 40-year-old include conspiracy, wire fraud, and money laundering. Sure you don't want to say anything, Ted?
Be sure. I love you, brother. This being the first
I love you, brother.
Our hope is that in DHS that this will not be the last.
According to the indictment, millions in federal TANF funds from the Department of Human Services were given to DiBiase and his companies for social services DiBiase did not provide. Prosecutors say DiBiase allegedly used the money to buy a vehicle, boat, and make a down payment on a house.
There are, as we all know, many other players involved.
DHS Director Bob Anderson says the agency has filed civil lawsuits against 38 defendants, including NFL Hall of Famer Brett Favre.
The feds are in charge of this investigation. We're cooperating, and they'll take it to the investigation wherever they deem appropriate.
DiBiase's trial is expected to begin 2 months from now. If convicted on all the charges in the indictment, he could face more than 80 years in prison. Reporting from the federal courthouse, Ross Adams, 16 WAPT News.
Yeah, they don't give people 80 years in prison for white collar crimes. You can forget it. That shit gonna be. He runs concurrently. He's probably gonna do 10, 15. He's probably gonna plead that shit out anyway. Real sad story. Especially considering Ted Sr. is about to start his podcast. Everybody's got a pod. Ted DiBiase. It's about to start soon, and it's very unfortunate that his son he's going to really be pushed to talk about this. Apparently, it's starting in May, from what it looks like. Let's see. Everybody's got a pod. It's going to start. They say it's 3 weeks away. 3 weeks. That's in the middle of May or something like that. Let's take a look. When is it? Oh, Marcus P. D'Angelo. Who the hell is that guy? Okay, so yeah. From April 14th, they said they're 3 weeks away from Everyone's Got a Pod. So it's going to be the middle of May. And his son's going to be on trial shortly thereafter. Oh, man, that's unfortunate. But I know a lot of people thought it was, Ted Sr., but it wasn't. Thank God. Ted Jr. was okay. AJ3 was right. Ted was one of those guys I just kept waiting for him to break through. As I was watching him, I was waiting to see when he was going to finally break through. And WWE wanted him to break through really bad. Like they partnered him up with Randy, gave him the nice little legacy run, the $1 million title. They put Maurice with him. It seemed like they were trying really hard to get him to get over. And it didn't work. It just didn't work. Really unfortunate, but he was a really good wrestler. Just didn't have his dad's charisma. And it didn't quite work out. I love the documentary that Ted DiBiase and Ted DiBiase Jr. did. They had an excellent documentary. It's in my playlist. So let's see if I can find what it's called. It's called The Price of Fame. That's what it's called. I'm about to put a link to my review of it in the description. In the comment section. But yeah, it's this is terrible stuff, man. Ted Jr. really shot himself in the foot with this one. He shot himself in the dick with this one. So if you wanted to hear my review of their shit. Can you click that link? Oh yeah, you can. Okay, cool. So if you wanted to hear my review of The Price of Fame, which is the Ted DiBiase podcast. No, I'm sorry, not podcast, but the Ted DiBiase documentary. There it is in the description. So there we go. Okay. So there's not much to add, really. I'm against these government programs, and this is the reason why there's just so much tremendous waste in these programs, and very rarely do they actually catch people doing this stuff, committing things like wire fraud. It's usually because somebody decided to audit finally after all this time. And I think that the pandemic funds being misused is what triggered the audit. If there was no pandemic, they probably would have got away with this. I'm not talking about Ted Sr. I'm talking about Ted Jr. Okay, so Ted Sr. definitely should have been world champion, but Ted Jr. was the guy we were talking about, really, in terms of never getting over and stuff like that. Okay, so I guess we're just going to be waiting. He's probably going to plead that out, though, if we're being honest. If we're being real, he's going to end up pleading that out because I don't know. I don't know if that's if he's the guy that they want. He might not be the guy that they want. I think they really want Brett Favre. That might be what they really want. They might really want Brett Favre, but they're not going to get Brett Favre because Brett Favre is suing them, I think, and they may actually get him. You never know. You never can tell. All right, but let's talk about Charly real quick. This show is blown by because I've gone through all of my subjects already. This is the last one. So it came out that Charly Arnolt, who was Charly Caruso in WWE about 2 or 3 years ago, she left WWE to join ESPN. Within the last couple of days, I think maybe literally today, she left ESPN to join OUTKICK. Now, OUTKICK is, of course, owned by Clay Travis, and Clay Travis sold OUTKICK to Fox. So she essentially now works for Fox. This, of course, frustrated a lot of wrestling fans because, they're like, oh no, we love Charly with the beautiful lips. And now we found out that she is a Fox News girl. They're really pissed at her. They're not mad enough for me to do like a Smarks Tears over it. And plus, she doesn't seem to be firebrand enough for us to go through all that. If she was truly like deeply based, we would definitely be having more fun with it. But she's basically just saying there were some things at ESPN she couldn't talk about. Again, matter of fact, let's just play the audio because this is from her first appearance on Fox, which is today.
Breaking from the network to call for fairness in women's sports. 2 of its major players are arguing that and
it's a very slippery slope because when you look at this is swimming that we're talking about, the main issue where we've really seen a transgender permeate the women's world, but there's so many other sports that are far more aggressive than swimming that are team sports. I mean, you think about soccer, you think about basketball. How about even just an average athlete, a male athlete, enters that world? Yeah. What's going to happen to women? It will become has been a huge advocate for women and their rights and very outspoken.
More and more people speak up with a similar voice. Go ahead.
So
here's the interesting thing about this whole thing. I don't want to talk about transgenders in sports. That doesn't make sense. That never makes any sense to me. The issue here is that her issue is that she wasn't able to talk about this kind of stuff at ESPN. I think she's going to talk about it in a minute. That's why I played the audio, is because I thought I had queued it up right, where they're going to ask her why she left ESPN. But now everybody thinks she's kind of like some kind of Uber Trump supporter or whatever.
Want to be considered politically incorrect now, because now it's really crazy where the world has gone and where this conversation has gone. And it's a very slippery slope because when you look at this is swimming that we're talking about.
maybe not. So you're here now.
Yes.
Why
There we go.
ESPN?
You know, I'm a very opinionated person. I always have been. That's something I really love about myself. And I just felt like at ESPN, I was a little bit stifled. There was a lot of conversations and issues that have really just permeated the world of sports and really just society in general that I was not able to speak up about. And it made me very uncomfortable because I felt like I wasn't being true to myself. So then here's a place like OUTKICK that really the idea of cancel culture does not exist. And you have a guy like Clay Travis who really stands behind everyone who works at the company and says, listen, you can say whatever you want. As long as you are convicted in what you're saying and you really believe in it, you have nothing to worry about. And that is the exact type of company that I would like to work for.
Well, welcome.
Yeah. Yep. Fox News just got a meteorite dropped on their head. A $785 million lawsuit. That was insane. All right. That was basically a company suing a company. This shit happens a lot, though. You know, these companies have these goddamn lawsuits, and everybody basically admits that they were lying, or they try to find some way. The 99% of what the media does when they get sued is they start claiming that they're entertainment, which is why you shouldn't trust it. Alex Jones did it. Rachel Maddow did it. Just so you can pretty much Google anybody. When either they get challenged either in court or to a debate, all of a sudden they back down. This is the Jon Stewart effect. You know, Jon Stewart, I think, was probably one of the first people I saw do this. And that is when Jon Stewart started saying shit that was wrong and he was getting called out for it, he'd be like, I'm just a comedian, bro. I tell jokes. It's like, no, you're a political commentator. You know, like you're not just a comedian. So when Alex Jones got busted saying stupid shit, he becomes, I'm just a comedian. I'm doing entertainment. I like Alex Jones. I think Alex Jones is entertaining. But I don't take everything he says seriously. I don't take everything anybody says seriously because sometimes people just say shit because they're on TV. And plus, you know, you have weird beliefs. You know, people have weird beliefs. That whole thing with this lawsuit was over the election coverage. So it was like Dominion, the people who created the ballot boxes, I believe it was. You know, Bill Maher is the same way. Bill Maher has made documentaries against religion and all kinds of stuff. Usually now I'll say this, like he's been on TV long enough. I haven't seen him literally back down and claim to just be making jokes. But he usually is doing straight opinion anyway. He doesn't really do news. Like the difference between people who do news and people who do opinion. People who do news typically mix their opinion with their news. And they do that all the time. And when your opinion is mixed in with the news and your opinion becomes what people believe is fact, then that becomes a problem. If you separate your opinion and your facts, your fact-based product, let's put it like that, then things usually work out for you a little bit differently. But this whole thing is a mess anyway. Clay Travis is also a cuck, so who cares? The thing about OutKick is they're based on most issues, but not all of them. They're still a Fox product, and it ain't it. But I'm not mad. Like that's the thing. Like there were people who were literally angry at Charly for being on Fox News, and she was excited to be on Fox News, and people were mad at her about it. And then I was like, I don't get it. You know, she wants to talk about trans women in sports. She's a woman. Why can't she talk about those issues without people being upset? It's bothersome, you know, but I see why she had a problem with it. I had that Sasha Banks piece on that thing. Where's that Sasha Banks thing? Because I wanted to talk about that too before I left. I figure we may have a little bit of time left. Here it is. We're gonna talk about her comments about Japan or whatever. So she talked. Let me put this in this. Let me put this here first. Oops. Never mind. Forget it. We're just gonna do this. We're still gonna do this though. Here's what she did an interview for All Grand Star Queendom. She's about to have this match with Mayu Iwatani. And this event is called All Star Grand Queendom. In the United States, they're running from being women. In Japan, they're tripling down on it. Okay. But here's what she says. The ultimate goal for a lot of professional wrestlers is to make it to WWE. That's what I thought was the big time. But I did that. I wanted to make a new history. And the place to do it is here in Japan. Japan has the highest standards for women's wrestling, and I want to set the standard in New Japan. There's nothing wrong with that statement. That statement was perfectly fine. So she says, quote, "This isn't just for me. This is for the future. It is for every girl that has a dream. I'm showing the world you can achieve feats that no one else has done before. I want to set the example. There are so many places where you can wrestle and make your voice heard. All right. I'm not just the best in North America. I'm the best in the world. I am making that statement in Japan. Women belong in this sport. I grew up watching bra and panties matches, but Japan had these hard-hitting, physical, violent women's matches. She's not doing those, though. she is certainly not doing that. That all Japan women's stuff, she's not doing that. And she said she grew up watching bra and panties matches. Well, she's 31, so she was born in what 1992. Is my math correct? She was born in 92. So that means she was a baby when Alundra Blaze was in the ring. I'm talking like literally eating her own boogers. Okay. So she says that rumors of her leaving Japan are far from the truth. If it's not coming from me or my voice, how does anyone else know my business? Well, that's common sense. So that goes without saying. If she didn't say it, then how do you know whether it's true or not? Good point. Then she says, quote, "This is my new home. I'm embracing the way of life. I'm riding the train. I'm eating the food. I'm not here for a quick second. I have a kitchen in my apartment. But when I go out, I'm eating yakiniku. It's this amazing barbecue. I've been enjoying everything. The pancakes are amazing too. This has become my second home, and I'm committed to staying here and making history." Okay. And she says, in the United States, you're told what to do, what to say, and how to say it. Here, I'm creating every single moment. I feel so free. I've never been this confident. And it's significant to me because I'm inspiring people to follow their dreams. I don't take that responsibility. I'm not even in my prime yet. I'm just getting started. I'm finally getting to create the magic I've always wanted to create. My ideas aren't being limited, and I'm not constantly hearing no or that matches are being cut short. I'm not going to hold back. Oh, so this girl is delusional. She I think she needs to be in a psych hold for a little while. Anyway, they talk about the Mayu sucks thing, which I made fun of. She puts over Mayu as saying she's won everything except this title that I hold or whatever, and said that she did the Mayu sucks thing as a reminiscent of Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle. She says, my family has history in music. I bought that guitar in Japan, and I'm a rock star, so I knew I'd do something creative with it. So creative. You got a mini guitar, and then you played it, and you just said, Mayu sucks, Mayu sucks, yes, she sucks. She's got to be in. She's got to be in. Oh, what the hell? She's got to be in character or something. She's got to be in character or something like that. Yeah, she's only had like 3 matches. She's only had like 3 matches in Japan. So, as a matter of fact, she's had 3 matches. Only 2 of them have been in Japan. Because remember, she wrestled in the United States. The Battle in the Valley was in the United States. So her other 2 matches were in Japan. So, okay. So here's the kicker. The reason why I decided to do this portion, even when I could have went to bed a little bit early. She says, quote, "I'm not the greatest women's wrestler. I'm the greatest wrestler. When you think of John Cena, The Rock, or Kenny Omega, I won't stop until people are thinking of Mercedes Moné in that same light." This girl, ego. It's just pure ego. My goodness. Nobody tells me no in Japan, at least not yet. You know, she ain't been there that long. So, not yet. You're still flavor of the month right now. When they get used to you, we'll see whether things change or not. But she wants to be in the same conversation with The Rock and Kenny Omega. Well, for starters, Kenny Omega ain't in the same conversation with The Rock. I'm sorry, being a global superstar versus being a star really just in Japan. Like, I would question whether Kenny Omega is a star in the United States. I am desperately needing. Look, I don't have any problem with Mercedes. I thought she's an incredibly talented young lady. My issue, it just has been her ego was out of control. Like, her ego was way out of control. She's talking about how she's, setting new standards and all these things. And I'm like, for who? Like, literally for who? Who are all these people who are going to be very impressed by you and what you're doing? You're taking yourself out of the pool. What's going to end up happening is, if you stay in Japan 5 years, she'll be 36. And there's going to be an entire generation of wrestling fans who are not going to have any idea who Sasha Banks was. Or they're going to remember who she was, but it's going to be in deep past tense. It's going to be like when it's somebody right on the tip of my tongue, when they came back to WWE. And they had been gone for like 5 or 6 years. Shit, I'm trying to remember who it is. But they were gone for a long time. It's like a whole new fan base has come in. I was just talking about this with Trish Stratus. There's been people who have been, they were children when Trish Stratus retired. And now she's back. It's been 12 years, 15 years or something like that. She retired in like 2006. It's been like 16 years. You've been gone all this time. You're probably not, if you're not like a super duper crossover star, 9 times out of 10, if you're gone that long, people are not really going to remember. Christian, exactly. That's exactly who I was thinking of. He was gone for so long. You have to be like, maybe Sasha Banks could be one of those kinds of stars, but once in 5 years, most of her peers will have retired. I'm not even going to hold you up. I don't think Sasha or Becky or Bayley got another 5 years in them. I think all 3 of them are going to be gone. At that point, Bianca would be 36 or 37 or something like that, or maybe even 40. And Rhea Ripley just being her early to mid 30s. The Cora Jades and all those people would just be like building their own legends. And she'll be coming back from Japan, assuming she stays over there for 5 years, and she'll be personally fulfilled. But if she decides to come back, people are not going to look at her like she was like this groundbreaker. They're going to look at her like she left and then she came back. Like, it's so weird that she has this mentality when all the greats have left. Everybody's left. Hogan left. Flair left. Bret Hart left. Shawn even left. It was retirement, but he left. Roddy Piper left. Everybody leaves. What she's talking about isn't some kind of new phenomenon. And Japan has always been there. So the idea that, well, I'm trying to build this new legacy in Japan is like, look, in Japanese pro wrestling, the women actually used to be held in higher esteem than they get held in now. Like, I think Stardom might be the least watched wrestling product next to the Japanese indies. You know, like Stardom never. The only time I think Stardom actually has trended on Twitter or something like that is if she was involved, and that's because of her, and that's mostly because she was on WWE TV, and that's the only reason she gets pushed. If we're being honest, if she had come straight from wherever she's from, Boston or whatever, Iowa, whatever the fuck, and gone over to Japan, they would not be treating her the way they treat her now. They treat her like she's gold right now because WWE invested so much time into her. As she strips away all that WWE invested, that's going to change a little bit. You know, it's not going to change a lot. It's going to change a little bit, though. Like, eventually, they're going to want a big return on this investment. And I'm not sure they're making their money back. You know, like, I'm not sure they're making it. I mean, they might be. I don't think so, though. You know, like, I really don't think so. I'm really asking the question, how? Like, I don't think Battle in the Valley made more money than it would have normally made. I don't think a single Stardom show has sold more than it would have made if she hadn't been on it. At least I haven't heard that she was like a super draw. You know, I haven't heard anything about it. So, I don't know. Maybe just the idea of she wants to do things and they're letting her do stuff and there it is. So, I guess that's it. But her ego was out of control. Like, we already knew her ego was out of control. But it's on a different level right now. And the truth be told, she's in a good place personally, which is good, I guess. But she hasn't even gotten the criticism yet. Like, again, Meltzer and all these guys are starting to really put the screws to her too. You know, she's talking about how she's the best wrestler and all this stuff. And Alvarez and Meltzer basically said she was the worst wrestler in the match when they had the triple threat match recently. And Meltzer was like, she was the worst wrestler in the match. And now that Stardom fan base, they like what they like, and they like their Joshi Puroretsu. And here you come bringing all your WWE. People are going to be like, I really do want to. I wish her the best, but her ego is out of control, man. Her ego is nuts. Like, whew. She's insufferable, and she's been even worse since she left WWE. Like, I thought she was crazy, but she's really off her rocker now. Yeah, she said she was the female Rock on Twitter. I don't know if she's playing. Like, I don't know, but and some people have said like she might talk Bailey into going over to Japan with her. Which, I mean, you just opening up the roster because, again, Dutch Mantel was absolutely right. Man, I should have probably did a longer form video just talking about this. When he said that the audience turn over every couple of years and you probably should just churn out some mid-carders and let them go. Sometimes people taking themselves out of the pool is for the best. You know, like it sucks because, yeah, somebody like Sasha Banks is very talented. If Bailey was to leave, she's very talented too. Absolutely. But 8 or 9 years on WWE TV, that's a long time. There's women behind you who are looking for that spot. You know, there's definitely women behind you looking for that spot. I'm pretty sure there's probably going to be some people like, yeah, you know, you probably should leave. Go join, you know, Sasha Banks in Japan because they want Bailey's spot. You know, like, shit, Bailey in her early to mid 30s. You know, if I can get her out of here, I can get her spot. You know, hoping that Becky want to get pregnant again and have another baby so I can get her spot. You know, because there's a lot of people who look. Sasha Banks is talking like somebody who's made her money already. And that's exactly what the thing that was going on with Jon Moxley. he made his money already, so he can go wrestle, Desperado at a high school gym, and he'll be happy. He made his money already. That's the same thing with Sasha Banks. She made her money already. She's done everything that she could possibly do in the United States already. She made event at WrestleMania. She was a top paid. She's one of the top 4 or 5 paid women's wrestlers, and now she's gone. Good. She did everything she could do. Now she's going to spread her wings. Not everybody else has that experience. Okay, she's got that fuck you money, and she got a reputation, and she also knows that if things fall through in Japan, she's got Uncle Tony who will throw her a bag of money too, to keep her away from WWE. So it's a great situation for her. It's an excellent situation for her. So I will always take what these people say with a grain of salt, because people who are already successful, they always talk about the freedom that they have. And it's like your freedom comes from your success. There's a lot of girls in that Japanese locker room that don't have the success that you're sitting around here talking about. There's a lot of girls in that locker room who are probably like, damn, I want, what she's got. I wish I could do skits and shit too, but they won't let me do it, or whatever the case may be. Or they're just getting started, or they got bumped off the roster list or whatever. They might have got her spot taken because she came over. But there was a big opening in the WWE spot locker room because Sasha Banks and her giant ego was gone. So we're in an interesting situation. We're in an interesting time. As people age and they grow out, the roster churn is necessary. It does suck to see people leave, but sometimes it's for the best. There is no growth without pain. Like a teething baby, there is no growth without pain. So I'm in favor of, roster cuts. I think, it sucks. People are like, oh, people are going to lose their job. Part of the reason sometimes why people don't really, I'll speak for myself. When I was watching WWE, it was the same people I saw all the time. When I came back, because I was gone for so long, like I say, it was a completely different roster. So I had to learn all of these people all over again. Who is this guy? Who is that guy? And it was interesting. Now it probably would have been better if I wouldn't have had to learn who 10 or 15 fucking people were at one time while watching one episode of SmackDown or whatever. Who is that guy? Who is that guy? Who is that guy? Who is that guy? What is his gimmick? What does he do? That's overwhelming. And that could be off-putting, which is also why people don't come back, because they're like, okay, everybody that I know is gone. I don't know anybody on this show. Why am I going to sit back and watch it all of a sudden? I get that. That's a barrier to entry, if anything. But the churn is good. It's good for the product, because now the fans can get people out of there who are also rans, who have done everything, and they're just kind of treading water. Kurt Angle, when he left, it was probably the right time. He had done everything. Even though he was in a bad state mentally, it was probably good for him to leave ECW when he did. He was in a position where, what else could Kurt Angle do? He had done everything already. So going to TNA brought, new ventures, new opportunities, new opponents, fresh coat of paint for his character. It was great. And it was necessary. And I'm telling you, it sucked when I would sit back and think about, oh man, Bryan Danielson versus Kurt Angle, man. We got screwed out of another Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero, or a really solid Kurt Angle and a really solid main event Jericho Angle match. Could have been great. But we got Angle versus AJ Styles and Angle versus Samoa Joe, stuff that I wasn't looking, I would never have thought about. So roster churn is a good thing, It could create positive. Like, look, it's going to be up to the wrestler whether it's good or bad or not. I never want to fire people just because they suck. That's for the people who are on the very tip of the iceberg. The Juice Robinsons and the Sean Spears. They just suck. Get them the fuck out of here. But then there's people who should probably just get released because they're not going anywhere. They're spinning their wheels. You've been in the same spot 3 years. It's like Natalya, Dana Brooke. It's like, really? We're better off bringing in people and doing something else. Like, Dana Brooke has been a manager. She's been a protege. She's been everything. I don't want Dana Brooke fired. I don't. But when you keep it real, unless she's going to break through and become a main event star, she's been low mid card for like 5 years or more. How much longer can we continue to do this? Send her on her way. There's plenty of people where you just really go through the roster. You can just comb and be like, I was talking about Apollo Crews the other day. He keeps hitting a plateau. Keep hitting that plateau. Cedric Alexander, is another one. I like Cedric Alexander. Talented guy. WWE has zero interest in doing anything with him. Let that man go. Let him go seek his fortunes elsewhere. If you just want to have a no-name athletic black guy, you got a bunch of those in NXT. Younger dudes who probably make less money. You can just replace him. If you want to make him somebody and show what he can actually do, I'm 100% with that too. But roster churn is necessary. Yeah, Ali is number one. Yes, Ali is another one. Let him go. Dolph Ziggler is another one. Let him go. I love Dolph. I don't necessarily love Mustafa Ali, but there's a lot of those mid-carders who aren't going anywhere in their career. Let's let them go, man. And I think Sasha Banks I think Matt Cardona and Sasha Banks and a lot of those people, they don't realize that their success is because of WWE. Well, I think Matt Cardona does. He does. But a lot of those people don't realize that your success comes from the time that you spend in WWE, the fact that they can put your face on a poster, and people will be like, "Oh shit, I saw him on Raw. I saw him on SmackDown. I'm gonna go see him live at this, National Guard Armory or whatever." And even if it's just going to Impact for a little while, to look at what happened with Steve Maclin. He went to Impact and now he's a world champion. Wow, that's just crazy. It's crazy. But for the women's wrestlers, something like Impact could be so much better for you. Like, if Dana Brooke just wants to wrestle and goes to see what she can do and WWE is stifling her, go to Impact. Go see what you can do there. Like, this is, I get, wanting to make it in WWE and you're going to fight and you're going to argue, but you would think after years and years and years, they have no interest and the crowd doesn't have any interest in you. I don't know, man. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of it is time to let some people go. It's time for the roster churn. And there's a lot of mid-carders, a lot of lower-level guys where I look at them and say, I don't see what purpose they serve. What purpose do they serve outside of being friends of somebody? And I just don't see it anymore. And Matt Cardona is correct. And even better, is what, if she didn't have such a huge ego, she would notice that her time in WWE is why she's so successful in Japan and why they want her there. Because she's a name. Well, she's not a name because they changed her name, but she's a face. All of the time they put into her, forcing her to cut promos and learn character and all that kind of stuff, is why she's considered a star. They did all the work, She now don't give me no credit. Don't get me wrong. She did the work, like the actual work of going to the gym and thinking up the character and working through the character and taking the bumps and coming up with the ideas and all this kind of stuff. She did a lot. But WWE invested time, effort, and energy into that stuff so that she can then because they can take the name Sasha Banks. So what? They can't take back what they gave her. It's the same thing with college, like it's the craziest debt to get into is college debt. But even if they took your diploma, they can't take what you learned, So you're still going to have a head full of knowledge, still have a network of people that you've met that's going to help you become successful later. And you got to understand, when people are looking at her and like, oh, I want to be like her. Well, the only thing that you can do is go make the money that she made, become the star that she became, and then hope that those other people want to invest in you. Because she's not coming straight out of like the Performance Center after being cut and making a name for herself. No, she was main event in WrestleMania and all that shit. She was a huge star that the company cut loose because she was a headache. She kept having problems. And right now she's in the honeymoon phase. She's in a new environment. Everything's working out great for her. And I don't know about the audience. I don't know about how the other girls feel about her in the locker room. But for her, everything is working out. It's turning up roses because it's so different than what she was doing before. But it ain't going to be like that forever. Like it ain't going to be like this forever. But I'm glad that she's happy right now, though. This is great. I just wish she would stop saying that she's the female Rock and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of loony bin. My family has success in music. Girl, your cousin is Snoop Dogg. That's it. My family has success. Like you got multiple people in your family or some shit that are like multi-platinum rappers. Shut up, you idiot. Like y'all the Anawai's of music or something like that. You shut your ass. Get your ass up. She's delusional, but she's a talented girl who's just got her head up her ass. Yeah, she's finally bigger than everybody else in Japan. I wonder if she's ever going to conform to their style. I don't think she will, though. I think I truly believe that eventually she's going to be so different than what everybody else is doing. She's going to stand out. That's going to be both positive and negative. It's going to be a positive for some people, but it's going to be a negative for others. But I can say this, as far as a black woman who is a big star in Japan, there's not a lot of those, and just to get woke on you for a little bit, that's a good thing. She's not. Is she going to be like the Bob Sapp of female wrestlers in Japan? It's like, no, probably not. Plus, I think Awesome Kong and Aja Kong have already done that. But she could become a pretty decent star over there, And I'm pretty sure she took cues from Chris Jericho, there Brandy is Snoop's cousin, and there is Ray J, so just Snoop. Brandy and Ray J suck though. Yeah, I wish her very well. She's twice as old as some of those Stardom wrestlers. Isn't Aja Kong is half black? You know, so I think her dad was black. Yeah, she's a lot older than most of the Stardom roster. Again, she's at the age where a lot of the Stardom roster is like, I've been doing this 15 years already. Like I know she's been doing it for a long time too. So we'll see. But I'm telling you, if the reviews of her matches keep coming out the way that I'm seeing them, then the honeymoon period won't last the rest of the year. She's going to get an attitude because people are going to say something about her eventually, and it's going to be a problem. But right now, she's floating on cloud 9, which is great. Always go out there and spread your wings. If you feel like you're in a dead end job, which WWE could be, if you're not constantly moving forward, it's a dead end job. Then it's time to cut your losses and go somewhere else. Even if you're just like Shelton Benjamin and you go to Japan or Mexico or whatever for a couple of years and come back, then that might work out. I didn't know Brandy and Snoop Dogg were cousins. That's weird. Says a lot though. It's weird. And both Brandy and Ray J suck, so I'm not even gonna sit here and pretend otherwise. Yeah, I knew Aja Kong was half black. I knew that. It was weird because she was supposed to win the women's title in WWF, and it didn't work out. Yeah, a lot of the fans are just kind of like I tried to read the comments to like some things that were posted, but a lot of it is in Japanese, and I don't really get, like, even if you do like the Google Translate or something like that, it's like not perfect. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more time to see if she's really translating the way that she thinks she is in Japan. But the idea that she doesn't get huge reactions when she comes out is like most people don't. I'm not gonna hold you up. Very, very few people get like big reactions in Japan. Most people they could be considered a big star. They get very little reaction in their match and all that kind of stuff too. So she's still kind of building her name. She's only had 3 matches over there. So maybe once she's had 7 or 8 or 10 or whatever, again, another year and a half. My whole thing is usually give it 6 months. Let the honeymoon period smooth itself over. And then we'll see. We'll see. What's her name? The top girl in Stardom is also she's like half Japanese. Julia, I think she's like half white or something like that. So, but it's a different era. Like back when Aja Kong was doing her thing, she probably faced a lot of racism, but I don't think so much today. When I watch anime, do I watch subbed or dubbed? Typically, it depends on what the product is. For a lot of anime, I will prefer to watch it dubbed. Subbed. But for Dragon Ball, Full Metal Alchemist, Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, Outlaw Star, only in English. I will only watch that stuff in English. But most anime, I would try to watch it dubbed first. Because dub forces me to pay attention. It forced me to actually like pay attention to the story and everything. Most matches get golf claps until like near the end. But the match has to be like 30 minutes in order to get that far. So, all right, it's time to wrap this up. But I want her to. I'm in this weird position with Mercedes where I think she needs to be humbled. At the same time, I don't want her to fail. I'm not wishing failure on her, but I do think that she will be humbled in terms of it's a completely different world. And the funniest shit to me is when she didn't get any reaction for any of her goofy gimmicks that she was doing. When she did the gimmick where she was playing the guitar and everything, and she seemed to be having a blast, but everybody else was kind of looking like, what reaction were we supposed to have? Like what are we supposed to do? Again, it's a different product. Everybody thinks they can go over to Japan and change that culture. It's like, no. Japanese culture, wrestling is a sport. It's not entertainment. They'll let you do all that entertainment shit if they think it'll work, or if you think it'll work, or if it'll make you happy. But ultimately, you got to impress people in the ring. And from what I've seen, there's not too many people impressed with her in-ring work. And that's mainly because of her style. She's not as fast. She's not as fluid. That diva persona only took her so far. So it is what it is. All right. It's 10 after 10. Thank everybody for showing up. I appreciate it. Yeah, I wish Mercedes well, man. Her ego is out of control, but it's always pride before the fall. And I hate to say that, but it's usually what the case is. And I've seen, if you watched a lot of wrestlers go, and they have a lot of that same mentality. Oh, everything is so great. Everything's fantastic. That doesn't last very long. And she's so excited that she's going to tattoo dates on her body and all that kind of weird stuff she's talking about. It's like, yeah, that shit's not going to last forever. The quicker things burn, the quicker they burn out. I'm telling you. And it never fails. Never fails. So I hope all is well. I hope the honeymoon period lasts a good year or two so she can have fun. But I feel really bad when it ends. What about Julia? What was the question? Hey, you didn't answer the Julia question. I don't know what the Julia question is. The question was she was I said she was half white, and everybody kept telling me she is half white. So I'm like, okay, well, I was right. I knew something was going on because they was talking about her jumping ship to WWE because she currently is doing everything that she can possibly do, and it's the same way. As I wait for him to respond to this question, it was the same way. Like when Asuka did everything she could possibly do in Japan, when Kushida, when Nakamura, when you do everything that you could possibly do in your market, that's the time to jump ship, And sometimes people get done really young. Jay White did everything he could possibly do in Japan, and he left and jumped ship. It's the right time, You're too young to be stuck in a rut. You're too young to be stuck in these situations forever with no forward movement. You're not doing anything, or it's the perfect time to move on. That's business. It's not personal. You got to have faith that those companies are still going to exist if you decide to go back. Vince doesn't really take people leaving personally. Except Randy Savage. I think he took that one personal. Hogan too. Hall and Nash probably took that personal. But quite a few of them he doesn't really take them personal. But hell, we'll be here when you get back. So I mean, it is what it is. The wrestlers and the fans have to adopt that same mentality. People will leave. They will go somewhere else. They will work somewhere else. I'm telling you, only two guys that I've noticed. I could not venture them going anywhere else. That's Shawn and Undertaker. Those are the only two guys. I would say like they'll probably never work anywhere else. But I thought Randy Orton was going to leave at one point. I didn't think he was going to go to take TNA or anything like that, but I thought he was going to leave. You know, Cena, I don't think him working anywhere else. You know, but you have to realize that wrestlers, that's why you're an independent contractor. It's the gig. You know, people come and they go. That's why fans can't get too attached by one person and start saying that one person is this company. As much as we want to be like AJ Styles is TNA, it's like, yeah, but he worked in Ring of Honor a lot too. He was also doing the indies at the same time. He was also, bouncing back and forth here and there. And, when he finally left, it was a death knell because that audience had come to love him and accept him as being like the heart and soul of that company. But he's a wrestler, bro, and he got to take care of himself. It's everybody has, it's basic human nature. If you feel like you're in a dead end job, it's best for you to leave. No matter how many friends you got there, if you feel like you can't get what you want out of that job, it's time to go. And sometimes that's what it takes. And Bayley might be at that point too. That's the only thing I think of is she's going to have Sasha in her ear telling her, oh, Damage Control definitely would have worked if he was in Japan. They do factions all the time over here. And it'll probably suck too, but she'll feel better because it's over there and it's not over here and she's not getting criticized. But it is what it is. It's just a job. People will be okay. Right. It is what it is. Just looking for the cash and the creative. That's it. And then they get that stuff and it's temporary. CM Punk, like I said, 6 months, it took about a year. And then it collapsed. You gave him everything you wanted. You paid him like he wanted to be paid. You gave him all the room and to make the decisions that he wanted to make. He got the right to come up with his own storylines, handpick his own opponents. Still fell apart. I'm thinking the same thing is going to happen to Mercedes, but I don't wish that on her. I don't wish she's going to, have a big blow up with Japan and whatever, but I can just tell because I've been watching this stuff long enough and I notice how this shit works. It's always great at first. Always great at first. But it's going to be a career resurgence. That's the thing. No matter how old these people are when they jump ship, it's always going to be an injection of fresh blood, at least at first. They're going to use your name and your face in order to get, their other wrestlers over to sell tickets and merchandise and all this kind of stuff. But then when they don't need you anymore, what's going to happen then? And that's going to be the issue. So if you can still catch a bag at 34 and your pay has plateaued in WWE and Stardom New Japan is willing to pay you a little bit more, go. Go ahead. Wrestlers don't retire young like football players. They don't. She's just hitting her prime. But there's going to be a lot of people for which Japan, is not going to be able to meet that money. So you could pretty much I don't think Charlotte will ever go over there. I don't think they'd ever pay her enough, unless she gets really pissed off at WWE and that's the only way she can get some money. But for the most part, you can tell when people have priced themselves out of the market, usually is, they don't really make the immediate jump. It take them a while. So, all right, try this again. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Thank you for coming through. Talk to you guys later.